Hello and welcome to another episode of the TK Podcast. I am your typical host, Alex Best, and today I'm joined by Anushka Davies as my co-host. Hi Anushka, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm really well, Alex. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. At the time of recording, this probably isn't close, but I just recently had my birthday, so had some good celebrations.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, man.
Tried to keep it mature, let's say, and collected. So yeah, it was good. It was good.
Well, thanks for the birthday invite.
I mean, you live really far away. Would have been like, and then you got to sort out babysitting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really,
It's
I was
all
doing
right.
you a favour. I didn't want you to have to do all of the extra work.
If there's a party, I'm there. You know
You
that,
would have bought
Alex.
champagne. That's the thing you missed out on.
Exactly. I would have bought you a bottle of something.
Oh, okay. You know what?
Next year.
Next year we'll get it sorted. And then today we've got two amazing people joining us on the podcast. One of those is Softcat and knows Anushka very, very well. We've got Justice Dapaa. Hi Justice, how you doing?
Hey Alex, nice to meet you, man. Nice to see you again. Happy to be here as well, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And nice to see each other off the football field,
Oh, Nush, we said we weren't going to bring that
Sorry,
up.
I know. I shouldn't really.
Still saw that.
So just for listeners, just so that we're aware of
Look, you smile and tell this story.
There was an event that was set up by AWS, a cloud cup, which included SoftwareONE and Softcat, and we played a little game of football, and one team happened to win and one team happened to lose, and someone on the call happened to score, but his name is...
It went down to the wire, though. It went to penalties, quarterfinals.
Sweet Caroline was playing as the penalties were going.
It actually was.
Oh God!
I'm not making this up.
Wow, it sounds epic. This is Wembley style here.
This
right?
is yeah.
I mean, it was at Plough Lane, AFC Wimbledon. It's a League Two side, so it was a good setting. That was definitely the game of the tournament.
Well, everyone stopped and watched it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It even got a little spicy, let's say.
Yeah.
Oh, it actually did.
Well.
Yeah, it did. It got a little spicy.
You gave me a little headbutt from behind as well, didn't you?
Oh, there we go.
Here we go. So let's hope we can keep it all nice and clean on this podcast.
Exactly.
Welcome to the podcast, Justice.
Thanks, man.
And then the second person we have is the main man at Upskill Digital. He's won a recent award for his success that he's had up to this point. So we have Gori Yahaya. Is that right? Yahaya?
Yeah, I said it right. Thank you so much, Alex. Genuinely pleasure to be here. Super excited to kind of get into this conversation. I'm gutted I missed the match, by the way. It sounds like
I think they've got pictures from when I scored. I can share that with you.
Oh God!
You see them,
I love
flashbacks.
It's still so raw.
Yeah, we'll be talking about this in like 6 months' time.
Yeah, exactly. I can see it coming up
100%.
again.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be here, though. Yeah, super excited about this.
Yeah, lovely to have you, Gori.
So today on the podcast, we are focusing on upskilling and how we can help those from underrepresented backgrounds get into tech as well. What we've got two people who are on different sides of this. We've got Justice, who has an amazing story about the trials and tribulations he's had to get him to the point where he's at now, and we've got Gori, who sits on the other side, and he's really one of the spearheads within the industry that's really trying to drive that excellence of people from underrepresented backgrounds into IT and into tech roles, not just in sales but beyond that as well. So Gori, first and foremost, I thought I'd give you the floor because a lot of the listeners aren't going to know what Upskill Digital is, what you guys do, and how you're helping everyone within the industry. Why don't you give us an explanation of who you guys are and how you help?
Absolutely. Thanks, Alex. So Upskill Digital, I founded this about 7 years ago. It's actually my third startup. But the area that we play in is all around skills, talent, and inclusion. So what we do is we build learning programs that essentially try to equip people with the skills they need to be able to thrive either in the workforce, especially where there are workforces are really sort of pervasive with digital skills, with technical platforms, with softwares that people need to be able to use well to be able to thrive in the workplace as well and have the confidence they need as well. So we do training. We're actually the agency behind some of the larger national digital skills programs like Google's Digital Garage, Lloyd's, BT Skills for Tomorrow, national programs that are helping people regardless of their background, their socioeconomic background, their age, so they can get into the workplace and hopefully thrive when they get there as well. Talent-wise, we have academies that get people upskilled in very advanced digital skills, so things like data science, cloud engineering, and then place them in organizations to help us or help the industry within the tech industry actually drive better representation. So we specifically focus on marginalized communities to get them into those organizations. Then on the flip side, we help those organizations build more inclusive environments. So training managers, training senior leaders, helping them feel more equipped to drive more cultural integration into their organization as well. So end to end, we're all about scale. We're trying to really support people to feel confident because we know that tech is really dictating our lives at the moment. So, how do we ensure that, we are able to kind of thrive with it and get the human support to be able to help us get there as well.
Wow, yeah. So that's amazing. There's so much in the package
So good.
that you're doing for a lot of people. I'm keen to understand the why. Like, what inspired you to start Upskill Digital? I know you're saying this is your third startup, so you're obviously a man with many ideas. But I'm wondering what's made you go down this path.
I mean, you are right. I'm a man with many ideas. I love solving problems, and I love solving problems that I can do in a way that scales. With Upskill, I guess what really baffled me was the fact that so many people lack confidence in getting hands-on with tech to either help them get into a job or just even build their businesses, right? In my early days, I was actually on tour with Google building a program that basically was educating small businesses on how to build websites and that sort of stuff. And there was such a hesitation towards technology, whether it's social media or whether it was, Microsoft Excel, little things that people just thought, it's not within reach. And, I just thought there was an opportunity there. I said, if you can build training in a way that makes it exciting for people, that they want to get hands-on with it and, spread the word about it and feel equipped, then they'll be more productive, they'll enjoy work more, and then Upskill, I knew on the other side of it was, how do we get people getting into jobs and creating better pathways, right? And that meant, breaking down the barriers to getting into organizations as well. So you have to think pretty creatively about that. I mean, there's huge inequalities in terms of how, certain people from certain backgrounds and communities don't have access to these jobs, or let alone access to the learning opportunities to get into those jobs. So that's where it got built from. That's what I wanted to focus on.
Yeah. And actually getting into jobs, particularly from a social inequality perspective, getting into jobs in the first place is difficult anyway. And then put the tech on top of that. I know, like, we do quite a lot of work with universities and schools, just getting more women into tech, quite frankly, as well. Like the industry needs more women as well. And it's quite a scary kind of industry to be. When I say scary industry, it's more kind of the technical aspects of it can put people off. Do you find also within the community groups that you work in and operate in, do you find that the tech side of things can be a potential barrier?
It can in two ways, really. So there's one part of it where it's like, do you have the right resources and devices and just access to simple things like just broadband, right? Like, at the home, the setup to be able to say, hold on, all right, so I've got everything I need to write a really effective CV, right? Or to be able to research jobs or job vacancies. I mean, I was thinking about this yesterday and speaking to an organization whose job vacancies weren't optimized for mobile. So like you couldn't apply easily through mobile. And there are some stats that say 92% of young people in the UK have a smartphone. But it's something like 42% either don't have a laptop or don't have broadband.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, it's like there's a huge gap there, right? And those inequalities means that people can't even get, they don't have the devices to be able to apply for that, which is an issue. And the other side is the skills. And like you said, it's a bit overwhelming for some people if you've grown up in your family and, I know I didn't have many people talking to me about the importance of tech and where you could go and what you could become and all this, because there's a lot of it's new. So if you don't have that around you, or people that are in successful roles, right, that can tell you about that journey, where do you learn about it from?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And I
Yeah.
think that's where there are barriers, right? Whether it's not really just female, or I think diverse is people just from certain backgrounds don't have access to those
Yeah.
opportunities, and that's that
Yeah.
it exists right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of a similar question to you, Justice, and I feel like you may be able to come from a different perspective because you've gone through it quite recently. Um, those barriers that you faced, is it just around tech, or is it also around sort of just the community that you're in as well? Because you've got your friends and they're doing different things, and I'm presuming you come from a background which is similar to mine, so you've got people who are doing stuff that isn't the right path, whereas you've got people who are trying to be rappers or footballers, sort of the generics. So, like, how
Yeah.
do you what other barriers have you had to face or overcome?
Yeah, I think, sorry, I think you're spot on. I think when I was growing up in school as well, it was like everyone was sort of, I went to a normal school that was inner city London. It was in a rough area and all that sort of thing. And I think I had to be very conscious about where I wanted to see myself. And when I was coming up, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to work in the city. That was the one goal I gave myself as I was studying. And it was like I didn't really know how to get there. I had no clue how to get. I didn't really know what jobs were out there. Definitely didn't know about the jobs in IT. It was all, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor. It was that kind of
Yeah.
question you get from an African household. So, yeah, I had literally not, I didn't have much idea about what there was in IT. Um, and I think it was very difficult to navigate that space. And there weren't a lot of role models, like you were saying, Gori. I think it would have been so key to have some role models where you could have, or even having a few more people coming into the school to discuss how they got to where they got to, so you sort of know how to navigate and sort of make sure that you're making the right
Yeah.
decisions to boost yourself in your career. And I think as well, I was going to talk about slightly later on, but I think a lot of some of the things you face when you're talking inequality wise, I had a lot of friends that had to work in like just maybe your JD or your Tesco, wherever it was, just to make some money to go towards the household. But I think in other scenarios, in a more equal setting, you might be doing unpaid work experience where you're shadowing in a firm that's actually gonna where you can network and learn
Yeah.
initial skills, so you can actually progress and go into something like that.
Mm.
So those are some of the inequalities you have, where you have to survive before you can even think about moving out of the area and actually pursuing your own dreams. So yeah.
So I've got a question because I know we'll have a lot of directors and company owners who will be listening to this, and obviously Gori's on the podcast as well. If you, I know, and this might be quite a difficult question to ask. Have you got any ideas on what you would have liked in terms of support when you had this idea of I want to go and work in the city, but I may need to go and work in the JD or an office or do a second job at the same time to support my family, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get that opportunity. How could, whether that's school or companies or anything, what could be have been useful to you at that point?
I think at that point in time, um, it would have been useful for us to have again. It's I think a lot of guest speakers just to inspire.
Yeah.
We did get David Lammy came down once, and that was a massive deal in school. It was like I think it was. He's a great orator anyway. So he definitely inspired us, and I think having a black role model who's gone on to do something, make a good name for himself, a good living for themselves. Having that experience there and having a role model to look to and be like, okay, he's done this. You get 5 minutes to speak to him at the end, and okay, this is how he did this. This is how I can do this. But on a more practical level, I think it was more around the thing that actually was the difference for me was we had an agency, a non-for-profit social mobility agency called the Brokerage came in, and they sat down with us, and I remember my whole year being in there, and they were talking about um, they can really help us get into, I guess, different roles, and they can help us with our CVs, help us with, perhaps getting into those institutions where we wouldn't really know how to go about it, we wouldn't know how to apply for jobs, we had no preparation. They helped us do a bit of that groundwork. So I
Yeah.
think it is a bit of that care where, you could see that it was the first time you sort of felt like someone was actually caring about you from this sort of background, was actually considering you. And I think it was only like 5 of us that have really actually seized that opportunity and applied to the internship. And I managed to end up at the Bank of England, which I definitely felt out of my depth when I was there initially, but it was like I had no right. I was like, I have no right to be it. I was like, but it was only because I always wanted to do it, but I had no idea on how to get to that point. So
And
yeah,
what did you do at Bank of England? Because I love hearing the fact that you and you can tell this story yourself, but you decided to take that to seize that opportunity during like the 6 weeks break that you normally get. And I love the fact that you actually went off and did that when all of your other mates decided that
it was the
it
most
wasn't a good
painful six
idea.
weeks. That 6 weeks was it was the last year before like college, or I think it was the last year before college, or no, it was the last year before uni. So it's like last time you're going to
So
see all your
year
friends,
13.
year 13. But I've been engaging with the brokerage for about a year at that point to get to that point. But I think, yeah, I sort of had to be headstrong when a lot of my friends were like, "Oh, it's a waste of time. Why are you doing this?" All that sort of thing. But there was definitely a desire from the few of us that did actually take on the opportunity to just engage, and we saw it as, okay, this could be. Obviously, we're fellow footballers. This could be how we actually, make the
Aren't
money
we
that we
all?
want to make.
Aren't we all self-employed?
Exactly.
Sometimes.
And
Yeah.
can I pick up on a couple of points there as well, actually, like, and I think it's so important for people to understand the story and the barriers that are in the way. And a couple of things that you said, Justice, like one thing I'm going to start and work backwards. You said, I don't have a right to be here, right? And you get into an organization thinking, I made it to the city and I'm in this big organization and I feel out of my depth. I'm an imposter, all that kind of stuff. How on earth did I make it here? Now, you're sort of one of many more people that are coming up thinking, actually, do you know what? I can get there, right? Because someone like Justice can make it. And, when we get there, we can actually be, we're a force to be reckoned with. We're going to go in and make sure people are aware that we have the skills and we have the confidence and we're passionate and driven. But that mentality that a lot of people have is there's no point in trying because that's not for you, and that's
Yeah.
a big barrier for some individuals where they're like. So I'm also a trustee for a charity called Founders for Schools, and what they do is try to get leaders into schools to talk about their journey, talk about what it's like when you get there, talk about why you'd want to come into an organization like a large tech organization or finance or legal or whatever. And those individuals, they do inspire you, but then that they have to give you that belief, right? That you should be there. That is a path you should take. And look, I've got African parents as well. Always got told, yeah, lawyer, doctor, engineer, maybe. And you're like, but hold on a sec, because their generation didn't know too much about IT. It wasn't as prolific then, and now it
Wasn't
is.
a thing, yeah.
Exactly. So it's just, that belief is something that you've really got to drive home for people to feel like, okay, that is somewhere that you can be. Role models have got to be there for you, and you can get the skills to get there. Take ownership of it. And when you get there, own your difference, own who you are, own, like what makes you special. And that's so important. That's one of the key things that I want to pick up on, because I think it's so important that you mentioned that as well, Justice.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing that kind of always sparks me is that having that confidence then to kind of fight back any negative comments that you might get, whether that's from family or your mates, like Justice, or your mates might have been having a good time for 6 weeks, the last 6 weeks before they go to uni or take on jobs, and you're doing something really practical with your life for 6 weeks. It's like pushing people off a little bit and go, no, I'm doing the right thing, and holding your own there as well. That must have been quite hard as well.
It was. It was. I think it was a bit. There were two sides of it. I think initially it was like you're watching all your friends go like Thorpe Park and all this sort of thing, and you're there sweltering on the central line in your suit. Um, but I think I did see two sides definitely where it was like you had a few people where it was like they're looking at you like what's he doing, but there was a lot of people where it was actually like they were encouraging me, but they were also saying, what, go on, do it for us, sort of thing. It's like we might not go there ourselves, but we're proud of you. Keep on doing what you're doing and keep on going from
Yeah.
strength to strength. So it was actually quite a nice moment, and I think I've always had the pressure of in my household being like, you're the oldest son, you have to set the benchmark for your younger brothers. So my dad's always reminding me, your brothers are watching you. So I had a bit of that on me as well. It's like I've got to set the tone for my brothers, and I can't really put a foot wrong. So yeah, it was difficult, but it was definitely rewarding. And I think I was paid a little bit. It was a paid internship, but even if it wasn't paid, it was just that opportunity to be in that environment, to be in the city, to just experience it and make those connections. It was invaluable, absolutely invaluable.
And I think I just add to that on the connections piece, right? Where there are a lot of other people that aren't from underrepresented backgrounds who have connections with people who work in those organizations. So it feels
Yeah.
easier to access. So what's really important is that, the organizations that go into schools and saying, hey, you can be this, here's how you get here, here are the skills you need, here are the tools that you need to get there is so key. It's like a lot of what we do
Yeah.
when we try to do our programs is that we want to have you the confidence and beliefs to get there, but also, you're not going to have a similar path to some others who know someone who knows someone who knows someone who puts you in that position, and you can just get in there. You do need to know what you need when you get there. So, for example, what skills are going to be vital for that your organization is looking for. How do I ensure that I don't have the negative attitude of that I'm not supposed to be there, but I also get the self-efficacy of like, hold on, I can teach myself what needs to be done, and I'm hungry, and I can do it for others, and show other people I can get there as well. So, it's just really important that we can identify where some people don't have that simpler access into those
Yeah.
industries. They've got to do a little bit more, but they're equipping themselves and they're hungry, and that's key,
Yeah.
right? So we
Yeah.
want to work on that.
Yeah. Sorry, Alex.
No,
I hope
no,
hope
oh,
it's okay
sorry.
if I ask a quick.
That's
Oh,
fine.
sorry,
Go on.
Justice.
I
Go
wanted to
on.
ask you a question.
You.
Alex, how did you end up, because you work for a good company as well, how did you end up where you are, if you don't mind me
Um,
asking?
so I'll gloss over the bit that's probably quite short, which is I was in a similar position to you, sort of year 12, not knowing what I wanted to do, and then I had someone who was the son of my maths teacher, because at the time I was very good at certain aspects of math, like probability, vectors, other different areas. And he said, "Look, you might want to be an actuary. I'll bring my son in. You can have a conversation with him and see if that's something that you want to do." Now, I'm quite money driven, hence why I'm in the sales role. And when I spoke to him and he said, you can make six figures, you've just got to complete some exams. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go see it. I tried the
Easy as
actuary.
that.
It was really straightforward. So I went to Kingston University and completed my degree for being an actuary. However, I realised after the first year that was absolutely not what I want to do. Had no enjoyment in it. It was it was too much numbers for me. I definitely could have gone and pursued it, but I've also found out later on in life that I've got a friend from when I've graduated who's gone and they're doing their last exam. He's missed out on he's 26 now, and since university, or since A levels, he's done at least two exams every year for his entire life. Just to get to the point where he is. Yes, he's now got to the point where he's going to make six figures, but his life is completely cut off. He doesn't have that social aspect. He sort of only comes out to see me if it's like in that period. There's like 2 periods in the year where he doesn't have to do any revision or any work, and he'll come out and he'll socialize, and that's it. And I was like, that's just not for me. But then alongside me being in university, I worked in a lot of shoe shops. So started at Kurt Geiger, which absolutely enjoyed. Just the B2C selling, right? Just selling to people, speaking to people, find out what they want. Some people kind of like didn't really care for it, but I could tell I actually wanted to make some money and wanted to be the one who had their name at the top of their list. So I went from there to office, which I ended up being at office about 3 or 4 years. Amazing. Worked at Russell and Bromley. Didn't really enjoy that too much, but from that experience, what I found out was that I enjoy selling, I enjoy speaking to people, I enjoy that aspect of it. Even if the next step is B2B, then so be it. Let me go and do that. Let me try that. And I went for a graduate scheme after graduating through Pareto Law. I don't know if anyone's heard of them.
Yeah.
Pareto Law, their format is they get a large amount of people, like 60, 70, I think even in some cases over 100 people in for
Loads.
an assessment day, and they will whittle it down to less than 10 from just that whole day period, doing a bunch of different tasks. And luckily I ended up being in that 6 and then got put into my first role in IT, which essentially was just cold calling and really just trying to get new business calls and book meetings and that type of stuff. which I call it in the trenches. Everyone needs to do in sales. I feel like you need to go through that, understanding how you can win a new customer, how to build those relationships and things like that. But yeah, that's probably the first part. When I was in that role, I was doing really well. I didn't end up enjoying the company I was in at the time, so I ended up moving on and in fact leaving the tech industry altogether to go and work for a publication in the theatre industry, which I actually didn't really have too much interest on. But what I learned there is about the culture and the fact that you need to invest in the people internally and build those relationships and actually try and be a part of the brand that you're in, right? Which is now when I come to SoftwareONE, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Not just be a part of SoftwareONE, but be a part of my community outside of that and see how I can affect my community outside of that. But yeah, a lot of bumps in the road in that time as well that I've not really mentioned. But I thought I'd give you the straight line version.
Yeah. And what you've just highlighted there, which is really similar to Softcat Justice as well, isn't it? That, you know, when I was saying earlier that some people think like you have to be really technical to work in the tech sector. Well, of course you need to be technical if you're working in a technical role or like quite a niche role, or you're an engineer, or you're going out to install stuff, whatever, for customers. But when it comes to our organizations, you know, SoftwareONE, Softcat are exactly the same kind of organization, really. And from a sales perspective, you know, what you highlighted, Alex, was that you kind of honed in on your motivators. You know, you were money driven, and that then kind of gives you opens up the opportunities that could potentially be available for you, which one of his sales. So it's kind of taking that technical aspect out of it sometimes to kind of focus on what the organization does best, which is around, you know, building relationships, working with customers on building out solutions, that rapport that you build, you know, that kind of end-to-end provider experience that you give. That's the bit that is really important in some of our organizations.
I think one thing to add to that, sorry, Alex, just to mention, is that, and a lot of organizations, you know, they look at the technical skills for the technical roles, and they say, okay, cool, let's make sure you have those. And, you know, when we build some of the academies that we have, they are helping you have those technical skills. But the large percentage of organizations need you to have those softer skills. You know, whether
Absolutely.
it's the problem solving, whether it's you know, collaborating effectively with other people, empathy with others as well. So when I look at upskilling and when we do the programs that we run, we have to kind of layer that above on top of all the technical skills that you have. So let's say you learn about data analysis and you learn how to kind of you know work with large sets of data. How do you visualize that? But how do you get the story across to someone? Right? And there are softer skills around presentation, around visualization, around having the confidence to get it across and ask the right questions of people so they know that they've understood what you were trying to get across. And that's key to it. So those soft skills and technical skills have to match. And outside of that, there's a whole culture piece, which I can go into later on. But I think there is something that we need to think about. Organizations need to think about when they're trying to bring in the talent that is hungry, that is maybe hungry for money if it's in sales, or just hungry to show that they can do something effective in that organization.
Yeah, no, fair. I just wanted to so you've talked a lot, and particularly Justice, about your experience a few years ago, and Gori, based on your experience at Upskill Digital and the progress you've made as well. I kind of wanted to see what you're seeing. You know, how do you view the world now? Like, so compared to a few years ago, what are you seeing that is different or not different when it comes to our you know, whether it's organisations focus or government focus on social inequality? What's your opinion there? Gori, you might want to start.
Yeah, sure. Look, prior to the pandemic, there was a huge challenge around the digital skills gap, digital inclusion generally. The pandemic just exacerbated that. There is, in some ways, it's shone a light on it, but in other ways, I don't think the investment is growing, but you know, there's still the gap is growing even faster. You know, if I think about, you know, what's happened since the pandemic, and let me look at like big tech, for example. So some of the larger tech organizations, or a lot of people in the IT organizations in the IT industry, profits are soaring. Organizations are we're talking all the large Amazons and Microsoft, the rest of it. I mean, they've got from 50 to 200% growth since then, yeah? But the investment that goes back into communities to ensure we're driving the right representation, it isn't following suit. They are investing and there is more of it, but to be able to meet the gap as it's growing, it needs to grow even further. You're talking, where I'm seeing the social inequality even also growing is that, a lot of people lost jobs, obviously, due to the pandemic and COVID and people shutting down. What you find is that in the top higher paying jobs, so let's say top 25% of jobs that are higher paying, higher, more technically skilled, there are more and more jobs at that level and less jobs for those that are in lower paying jobs from low socioeconomic backgrounds. So the fight is harder. Automation is driving that. Many organizations are saying we need to automate our services, so we've got less people coming in. So you need more skills, right, to get into those jobs, but there's less jobs available, right? And then at the higher place jobs, you need more advanced skills as well. So what I'm seeing is that displacement is becoming wider, and the path that people take to get into either of those two levels, it needs more support from a government level, from a corporate level, from a small business level, right? People need to make sure that they're making themselves accessible to those from regardless of their background. And building learning programs that are accessible, right? That do feel like people come out with something as well. I mean, look, if the price of higher education is skyrocketing, right? And traditionally, in a lot of organizations, those in digital or technical jobs have come through some sort of degree or have completed some sort of degree. And I think you find people just have less access to that. So their alternative routes into tech are becoming much more interesting for individuals, and that's a big change I'm shifting. And I'm right now just talking about skills. What I haven't even touched on is how inclusion has a massive focus for organizations, right?
Yeah.
Many organizations call themselves purpose-driven, but can't showcase how the environment is right for everybody.
Yeah, maybe we can hold that thought for a second just to bring Justice in, because I don't know what you think. You were talking about how you've got lots of friends from I guess different school levels, and you've got siblings as well. Have you seen a difference over the last few years?
Here in Softcat, I think in the London office, we're doing quite a bit more within our BAME community to actually encourage more people of color being hired and making them feel welcome when they're in this environment once they actually get here. But I think when I talk to my younger brothers, and I talk to them about how they feel about going into the workplace and taking those steps, I think their perception is changing as well. I think there's a sense now that you do actually belong, and I think there are more people looking to make that transition than when I was in school. And I don't know if that's due to more people just making it and more there being a little bit more representation now. But I'm definitely seeing a bit more of that.
Yeah. And do you see more organisations being confident on that outreach? Like, had it not been for brokerage, like you said, you took on that opportunity. Do you, based on the community, do you feel like more organisations are doing their bit?
I'd say I guess it's kind of hard for me to judge, but I'd say I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think there is a bit more. There's probably more outreach. And in fact, my brother actually said that Softcat had come into the school not too long ago.
Really?
So you are seeing more businesses definitely make that outstretch that hand and come in and try and showcase that there is a place for them, place for us. But I guess that's probably the extent of my knowledge on that.
I think it's interesting that you said that there's been this shift around like apprenticeships and just everyone from our background feeling a little bit more inclusive to like office jobs. Because I remember the reason that I probably finished my degree was for the sole reason that Gori, I think, was suggesting about the fact that in most of these roles, they're sort of putting on the job spec, have a degree in whatever it may be, and then a list of a few different other things that are not as important as that degree. So I always had that concern that if I decided, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, I just want to go out and work, and I did want to work in an environment where I was in the centre of London, sort of wearing a suit and a shirt and going to meetings and doing all of those types of things, but I just didn't really think it was possible. But it's great to hear that the needle has shifted in a way so that those who are coming through now are really just thinking, you know what, I can go and do these things, and fingers crossed, there'll be a point where they can say, oh, I can go and speak to my uncle Alex who works at so and so, and he might be able to help me out. I just think, yeah, it's good. It's good that the needle is shifting.
And it is shifting, but Gori, you probably have an opinion on this, because yes, it is shifting, but is it shifting fast enough? And that's a bit that always kind of grates on me. Like, yeah, we're making progress, but it's such slow progress.
Yeah, I mean, look, just to come in on the degree thing. Like, I did my degree just to have a degree, right? Like, you know, I can hands on to say that I studied chemistry at university, right? I am not a chemist. It was one thing that I was good at, but you know, and I at times I was thinking, you know, what's the relevance of this? You know, it's expensive. How am I going to get out of this? But from my perspective, the landscape at that point, you know, degrees were so prevalent on every job description, right? It was so prevalent, with organizations knowing that actually that perhaps wasn't as needed or necessary for the job title, you know, for the responsibilities of the job. But I did it, and I moved out for it, and I'm really glad to hear when Justice was talking about that becoming less of a need, when people aren't just stepping into you're paying a lot of money to try and get a degree that may not, you know, mean a lot. But organizations aren't moving quickly enough. You know, there is a movement where they're starting to reconsider the job descriptions and thinking about what is necessary for that role. You know, are you looking for somebody that has the skills right now that can do the job, or do they have potential to be able to do it and can be trained on the job as well? And that's really important when you're looking, you know, comparing potential to experience. What I see is a lot of large organizations are starting to do this, right? Are thinking about this because they've got the resource to review, reevaluate, almost update all of the job descriptions and change it in one go. Smaller, medium-sized organizations aren't investing in this as much.
Yeah.
Typically because they don't know where to start. So a lot of organizations we work with, we've got to start. We get back to the basics, okay? What's the goal you're trying to achieve? What is the cost to the organization if you don't invest in widening your candidate pool? And a lot of them don't, you know, they don't realize that actually we're just going to the same places to get the same people, right? You know, many of them, they wouldn't even think about going to Justice School and saying, well, you know, when you were at school, let me go and talk to those people. So they're now realizing, hold on, if I widen my candidate pool, you know, this is brilliant for us. It just means we get more candidates, which is necessary because there is a war for talent at the moment. And to do that, we also need to educate our recruiters on how do we widen that candidate pool. We also educate the managers on how to onboard people, right? And that's probably one of the biggest shifts for me recently is people are taking a look at how they onboard people into organizations. Look, for the most part, most organizations have a pretty rubbish onboarding or induction process. Like, we all know that. It's never that easy. None of it is stellar. So realizing that actually what it does for diverse candidates who come in, it makes it even harder for them to integrate into the business, and then they're going to leave.
Yeah.
Retention rates are going through the roof because people are like, why do I need to be here? So there is a shift. It's not fast enough, but, you know, thankfully is, you know, as candidates start to think, actually, you know what, I'm going to go to an organization and it needs to be right for me. Organizations are thinking, are we making it right for them? Are we making it right for everybody? And that's coming in. That's what we're seeing.
Yeah, which goes, and which is why, I mean, inclusion, like I've as part of my role, I've always said that, you know, the diversity will come, but you've got to get inclusion right. Without the inclusion piece, what's the point of, you know, kind of going, right, we're going to go out and increase the number of women or increase the number of ethnic minorities or increase the number of, you know, whatever minority group that we might be going after. The diversity just won't, you know, we won't retain that talent if it's not a place that people feel comfortable in. And
they'll come
particularly
in, they'll come in, they'll engage, they'll be like, this isn't right for me, and I'll leave. And then you're like, and the cost for replacing talent, you know, when you've invested so much, it is pricey. And you're completely right, sorry to cut you off, but I think I get very passionate about when people feel like we just want different faces. It's not enough.
Yeah. I wonder if just as we kind of we've talked about the things that we're passionate about. We've talked about the difference that, you know, everyone should be making more of. What kind of simple ways do you think then, now moving forward, can organisations kind of adopt to make a difference? I know from an experience at Softcat, you know, it's not just outwardly going, right, we're going to make a difference, we're going to go out and do all the outreach, we're going to, you know, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you have to change and adopt internally, like you've just said, Gori. You know, recruitment processes need to evolve. Hiring managers have to have a different mindset, a growth mindset. That stakeholder relationship at the top needs to be really buying into it as well. There's quite a lot of internal movement that doesn't happen overnight. But what practical kind of tips can you give organizations here that might be listening to this podcast?
Well, I believe you can educate people on inclusion, right? And I think it's really important. I feel people managers, they can make or break your diversity and inclusion strategy, right? If you do not invest in those individuals, then you'll find people leaving. Look, you know, it's often said in recruitment that people don't leave the organization, they leave their manager. And if your manager feels equipped to support you and your needs and to help you progress with the organization and let you fulfill your potential, and they were educated and given the tools and the techniques to do that, having the right kind of conversations with you, then that can truly help you. So investing in your managers, investing in their training, investing in their learning, and also hearing from them where they feel like, I don't have what I need to help someone like Justice progress in this organization, right?
Yeah.
So there's a bit that can be done there, and I think that's really important. You know, organizations need to think about the access into the organization, so not just to do traditional hiring processes, but how do you have clearer pathways into the industry? So, you know, things like academies and boot camps, you know, a lot of them are free, and you know, the government, you know, did the fully funded one last year that we got involved with. Getting involved with that so that you can build a pipeline into your organization is really, really, really important. So what I would say, you know, the other thing is reminding yourself as an organization of the responsibility that you have to ensure that we can level the playing field and have better representation. I talked before about a lot of tech organizations having incredible profits, but they need to make sure that they're doing the right thing by the level of representation within organizations. So again, not just investing in diversity, but making sure that they feel that they can actually access your organization and stay and feel, you know, comfortable with an organization. So leadership need to be educated on that and feel that they can own it. Managers need to be supported around having better cultural intelligence, you know, understanding different cultures and the needs that they have, and become more like coaches than just supervisors and team leaders, right? How do they become coaches for individuals and help them through? They need to be equipped to do that, and that's really, really important. And then again, I was focused on that onboarding process. How do you get people managers and hiring managers involved in that to help them, you know, really help these individuals, you know, progress with the organization, you know, effectively. So those are some of the key things a new organization can do. You know, if you haven't set goals, you know, potentially and we do a lot of consultancy around setting goals for organizations. They're different for every organization, but gives you a target to focus towards. You know, just saying I want to have a more inclusive culture is not enough, right? What are you trying to drive representation, help people progress? What does that look like?
And that's the thing, is like it goes beyond words, isn't it? I think, you know, we do see it happen quite a lot, and none of, you know, us as organizations, and you know, because you know, maybe you can speak on behalf of SoftwareONE, Alex, as well, but you have to mean everything that you're saying, otherwise it just doesn't come across as authentic. And for me, it's been, you know, like the last couple of years, it's been a bit, not to use the kind of journey word, but you know, it has, because you do have to make sure that everyone kind of really believes and trusts the model, and kind of really can buy into the ultimate mission, which is to make us a more culturally inclusive organization. Irrespective of the fact that you might have a fantastic culture, it's not the culture that is for everybody, so it has to keep continuously adapting and evolving for the benefit of more diverse groups as well.
Yeah, and it's not a destination, it's a journey, and I think it's really important. You know, they've got to understand you're just going to get to a simple endpoint. But yeah, it's a good point.
Justice, welcome back.
Yes. Apologies.
No worries, it happens to the best of us.
He started crying because of that he got reminded of the scoreline.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yikes.
One of the one just as a closing question, really, we asked about like what is it that organisations can be doing more of. What have you, I guess, from your perspective, a different angle really is, and like be really honest here, is what have you seen Softcat doing well, and or IT organisations in general, and what do you think we could do more
Yeah.
in terms of like
Okay.
shifting that dial, making further progress?
I think that's a great question. I think, Gori, you touched on some really poignant stuff, I think, which really resonates and runs true for me. I think you mentioned about people working for not for the manager, but the people, the managers making such an impact on a person's experience within the
Yeah,
organization. And I've seen it even here, people that have joined, some of the, well, I won't say any names, but some girls that have joined who, not necessarily felt completely comfortable, or they've seen a lot of change in the time that we've instigated our BAME community, which has been here only for about 2 years now. But that has made such an impact on their day to day and their willingness to, be here, and them feeling comfortable and encouraged and valued as part of as an employee within the business. And I think we do still have a long way to go, because I look around my London office now, and it's one of the most multicultural cities in the world, and there's probably we've still got a long way to go in terms of seeing that diversity. But I think definitely within Softcat, you can feel that it's true, and there's a genuine desire to really make those changes. And I think it's little things, even like our celebration that we had recently. I know that when I speak to some of my colleagues here, I know that even just hearing their manager ask them, so how can I support you while you're doing Ramadan and while you're fasting? Things like that make such a difference to your day to day, and you feeling valued in your culture. You feel like you can be your full self when you come to work. So I think it's the little things. I think it comes down to that people management and the middle management having that skills and being taught just how to manage people correctly and how to show empathy and just understanding of cultures. I think that's so poignant, and that'll be the difference to retention.
I think
yeah,
just a message I want to give out to those individuals who are out there and maybe they're not happy with how their company's set up at the moment, with them maybe not having the communities where they feel like they can thrive in. You've got two options, I say, from my standpoint. You can be that beacon who says, you know what, I'm going to set up those communities and those groups, so that when people do join the business, they're like, you know what, these exist. And
yeah,
plugging in one of our older episodes, we do have one on employee resource groups, which can help you with that.
yeah,
And outside of that, if you are thinking, you know what, I want to step away and I want to go and work somewhere else because I just don't enjoy the environment that I want, it exists. It's out there. You do have managers out there who will be able to support you and give you that type of time that is needed for you to succeed. And there's companies out there that are not just like a Microsoft or a Softcat or a SoftwareONE where they're these big sizes. There are mid-market companies who are set up in the right way as well. We've got an episode
yeah,
that's coming out probably after this one, where we're speaking to someone who worked for a recruitment firm, a quite small recruitment firm, and the way that they're set up culturally, it's really good. They've got quite a diverse amount of people, but they're able to go and support all of their employees. So change is happening. I think is the main thing. The needle
yeah,
is
yeah,
slowly, not as quick as we would like it, but it's supporting all groups. So whether you're someone from a black background or you're Muslim or you're non-binary, the needle is shifting for you. So just keep confident in yourself and your own abilities, and I think you'll do just fine.
Can I add just a couple of things onto that, Anushka, just real
Sure.
quickly? I think just on if you do feel the organization isn't right and you do feel you're stepping out, I think giving feedback to the organization is so important. I think organizations
absolutely,
often, they don't understand why people are leaving and they don't
yeah,
understand how it affects them. They know it's costly, and I think feedback is so key. I also think, and Justice talked about that the manager support. I think it's really interesting. I was talking a bit about this a little end of last year around what's called protective hesitation, where if a manager doesn't feel comfortable giving somebody feedback on their work because they're fearful that they might be seen to be racist or sexist or whatever because they can't connect with them, that feedback is so vital for that individual that
Yeah.
you are stunting their growth, right? So what
Yeah.
managers typically they do, and like we run a couple of programs which are like getting black people into leadership and some managers kind of supporting them. What you find is that there's a lot of unsaid kind of nervousness. So managers don't say anything. They say, let me just keep it
Yeah.
to myself. And that truly affects their support. So you've got to educate them. You've got to give them support
Yeah.
and helping
Yeah.
them progress regardless of whatever area they're in.
Yeah.
As well. I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah. You're robbing somebody of that growth opportunity, aren't you? So it's so vital. And actually, Alex, you touched on a couple of podcasts. There's actually a really good podcast that Keisha did. I think it's podcast 4, and Keisha talked about how we're kind of having that comfort. All organisations can make it like a safe place for people to have the confidence to provide that feedback. Upwards feedback as well is so important. So I'd like to say, take a listen to that one, because she's talked about how she's embraced that and she's felt really safe and secure around her, like in terms of for the people, like her managers, her stakeholders, the leadership team, giving her that opportunity to be able to speak up as well. And I think that's really important as well. So really good bits, a few tips there, Gori.
So I'm just conscious of time, and first and foremost, thank you, Gori and Justice, for joining us on the podcast. Really do appreciate it. I think it's fair for me and for TK as the podcast to give Gori some time to plug in Upskill Digital and speak a bit about how you can help some businesses. So I'll give you the floor to just speak a little bit about how you help businesses achieve the goals that they've set in terms of their workforce and making sure that they're prepared for the underrepresented workforce.
Yeah, look, massively appreciate it. And honestly, we could have this conversation for hours. And I just love the platform that we're building here and that TK is building to educate a lot of businesses around what they can do to drive that change and start to pick up the momentum there. Look, at Upskill, we run a number of programs that are broken down into specific areas of the business. So it could be recruitment. So how do we support you in breaking those barriers of access into the organization, increasing levels of diversity, but then also moving it into onboarding so that we can support people when they get there to actually progress. We've got our academy programs where we are trying to get, educate a lot of marginalized communities in some of the future ready skills, digital, so data science, cloud architecture, that kind of stuff, and getting them in as well. But a big part of trying to drive better representation is also tackling the retention piece. So there's a lot of focus and a lot of stuff that we do on the equitable career progression. So entire programs that might help getting women into leadership or people from ethnically diverse backgrounds into leadership. So a lot of this session was about skills, and we talked a lot, I think it's really important that we think about what those leadership skills are, empathy, the collaboration, how do you feel equipped to, have that career resilience, when you always get knockbacks, right? How do we help you with the confidence? So we do those programs that get people through. A lot of them are mentoring based. We have a learning platform as well. So we kind of bring it all together to get people on that journey. And then people managers, it's a big thing for us. We have a lot of programs, so shout out to those listeners that are thinking, where do we go to learn? Loads of programs that have that give you access to some of the skills, but primarily businesses. The responsibility is in your hands to invest in your teams and help drive that better representation across the industry. Really hope that we can support, and we've got learning programs and loads of examples of stuff that we've done to help them really progress. Can I mention one thing, Alex? And this is a really interesting one. I don't know how we can feed this in, but when I went to the TK dinner, Anushka, there was one of the guys who was there, and he actually said the only reason he joined his organization, he was an Indian guy, he said the only reason he joined his organization was he had seen on their Instagram, there was a black guy that was involved in a Tough Mudder. And he was like, because I just saw someone like that in that, across the rest of the website, there was nothing, but I saw that, I thought actually that was worth it. That was exciting to me. So talking about what organizations can do, showing representation, it's so powerful. Powerful. Otherwise,
so powerful, so simple as well, isn't it?
So simple. So I feel there is something where you can try to elevate those individuals. We've all seen it on our LinkedIn. People are shouting about joining new organizations. I finally made it in this organization. Why is that so important? So we know every person in an organization hires, progresses, that makes a statement, right? Makes a statement from an ethnically diverse background. It makes a statement. It says there is progress. You can come work here. we need more people like you, and that is so important for the industry. So
Yeah.
sorry, I just had to
Yeah.
say it because I thought it was important to get across.
No, definitely. You can't be who you can't see is often the famous words that we hear, aren't they? And
Yeah.
absolutely fine point to end the podcast on, isn't it, Alex?
Yeah, 100%. Justice, is any last words from you? Any messages you feel like you'd want to give to particular groups, or if you're a message to like your younger self, for example?
Yeah. Message to my young self. Well, firstly, I'd echo what you just said, Gori. I think that's so true about the representation on even on our website. I know that I've had people come up to me and be like, "We only apply because we saw this on the Instagram or on the website." So that definitely rings true. I think to my younger self, the little bit of advice I'd give myself is be more fearless in opportunities, be more open to learning what you don't know, and have faith that there is a space for you in any room. And when you do walk into any room, be confident in who you are and that you belong there. But I think the likes of Gori, I think that your work that you do is so important, so pivotal. I would have loved to have, had a bit of exposure to that when I was coming up. But yeah, those resources are out there. Reach out to them, tap into them. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Gori, Justice, and of course, thank you, Anushka, as well.
Thank you, Alex.
Been fantastic. But yeah, that's all we've got time for. So please, give it a like, give it a share. Please subscribe. Our main choice of social media is LinkedIn, so please share it on LinkedIn if you can. Share it with a friend, a colleague, anyone, everyone. That we're really trying to get the message out there to as many people as possible. But yeah, that's all we've got time for today. So yeah, until the next episode, take care and thank you for listening.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thanks
See you
for having me.
soon.
Take care.